There was another big story this week that for some, they may look at this as a good thing, but this is very much not a good thing if you are a fan of variety and not having one company monopolizing everything and having independent voices. However independent they may have been before this, because it's not as if they weren't already in bed with WWE before this news broke. But this is actually quite depressing, to be quite honest. You know, many years ago, in 1993 to be exact, there was a little something called Radio WWF, which was Vince McMahon's way of trying to expand his product's reach from television into radio. And Jim Ross was a key part of that endeavor. Ross had been on radio before. He hosted a show called Wrestling with Jim Ross every Sunday on a talk radio station out of Atlanta. This is when he was still working for WCW. And so he pitched a similar idea to Vince after he started working for him, and Vince loved it. Hence, Radio WWF was born. And it didn't last very long. It lasted a matter of months, from 93 into 94. I want to say they ran it through WrestleMania time. It was sometime in the first half of 94, where they would provide alternate commentary for the pay-per-views from JR and Gorilla Monsoon. And then later on, a young Raven, Johnny Polo, I believe, started doing it with JR. But they even covered news from around the wrestling world, not just the WWF. Now, it may not have been the most flattering news that they would cover, like the scissors incident in WCW between Arn Anderson and Sid Vicious. It's kind of like that brief period 20 years ago where WWE started covering wrestling industry news on WWE.com. Do you remember this? They were covering TNA releases on their own website. I want to say it was a Shane McMahon idea because he would have been heading up the digital side of things back then. I mean, Shane had a lot of ideas. Shane wanted to buy ECW when it was headed for bankruptcy and run it on his own. Vince said no. Shane wanted to buy UFC when it was nearing bankruptcy. Vince said no. Shane wanted to buy the Pride Fighting organization. Vince said no because he couldn't control the outcomes. And then you got to deal with the state athletic commissions and all that stuff. He didn't want to have anything to do with that. Shane wanted to run ECW as an online-only show in 2006 when they brought it back so that they could be edgier. And Vince said no to that too. It's not hard to see why he eventually had the blow-up with his father and quit. He wanted to show his dad that he could run something on his own and be successful at it, just like he was. And Vince just kept shutting him down. Anyway, that was Radio WWF many years ago. This week came the announcement that starting this Monday, tomorrow, WWE is partnering with SiriusXM to launch WWE Radio, which will be taking over channel 156 on SiriusXM, replacing the existing Pro Wrestling Nation 24/7 channel. The lineup will still be anchored by Busted Open Radio, along with all of their usual shows hosted by Sam Roberts, Peter Rosenberg, and others. WWE Radio will also have live commentary for every PLE, with Vic Joseph and Booker T calling SummerSlam live for SiriusXM listeners, and there will be audio simulcast for select television programs. The WWE and Fanatics group of podcasts will also air on WWE Radio, including Cody Rhodes, Stephanie McMahon, and The Undertaker shows, and WWE Now from Sam Roberts and Megan Morant. Episodes of those podcasts will air daily at 4 p.m. Eastern. WWE Radio will broadcast several live shows directly from Minneapolis in the days leading up to SummerSlam, capturing the, quote, vibrant atmosphere and fan excitement surrounding the weekend's events. This is according to the press release they put out. Dave LaGreca, Bully Ray, Mark Henry, Tommy Dreamer, Sam Roberts, and Peter Rosenberg will host from the Minneapolis Convention Center and will analyze upcoming storylines, interview WWE personalities and superstars, and speak with fans in Minneapolis and across the country. So if you're wondering, well, what does all this mean for discussion of other wrestling companies and wrestling shows on SiriusXM and on Busted Open? It means exactly what you think it means. Thunder Rosa is under contract to AEW and CMLL. WWE does not play nice with AEW, nor does AAA play nice with CMLL. She announced that she will no longer be working on Busted Open. Now, my understanding is that she hasn't been on very many times anyway over the past year, maybe here and there. But that's not even the point. The point is, there is not expected to be any AEW coverage on the channel whatsoever moving forward. Rosa posted on her social media on Friday, "After 4 unforgettable years, it's time to turn the page. Some chapters in life change you forever, and this has been one of them. Being part of Busted Open has been so much more than sitting behind a microphone. It gave me the opportunity to share my perspective, connect with wrestling fans around the world, and celebrate the sport that has given me so much. I'm especially grateful to Tony Khan for believing in me, trusting me to represent AEW, and allowing me to contribute my voice to one of the most respected wrestling shows in our industry. To Dave LaGreca, Tommy Dreamer, Bully Ray, Mark Henry, the producers, and everyone behind the scenes, thank you for welcoming me, challenging me, inspiring me, and making me feel like family." And she had a lot of other very complimentary things to say. She said, "This isn't goodbye. It is simply the beginning of a new chapter. I will see you all very soon." I don't listen to Busted Open these days, and it's not because I dislike the show or anything. I think what Dave LaGreca has built over there is very impressive. Starting the show way back in 2009. There weren't very many wrestling radio shows or podcasts back then. I mean, I started my show in 2007. You had Don Tony and Kevin Castle. You had live audio wrestling used to air on the radio out of Toronto. I know Meltzer and Alvarez, they had their show on IATA before IATA went belly up. But these shows were few and far between, compared to what we have today. He took a show that he started with Doug Mortman, who still works for SiriusXM, as fan-hosted with fan opinions on everything. Not just WWE, but TNA, Ring of Honor, New Japan, all of it. But it was a fan show. And then he brought on Bully Ray, and other wrestlers or ex-wrestlers started hosting, and it just became a very different show. But I don't even have a SiriusXM subscription, so outside of the clips that I see on social media or on their YouTube channel that I do occasionally come across, I'm not a regular listener. So I can't speak to the daily listening experience when it comes to how much coverage other promotions have been getting on Busted Open. I suspect not very much. I know they would cover AEW, but not as much as WWE. And truth be told, I get those same complaints, even from my show sometimes. And that's twofold. Sometimes there just isn't really anything to talk about beyond the television shows when it comes to AEW. There's not a lot of actual news. And also the AEW content doesn't do as well as the WWE content to begin with, right? I still cover it. I still do it. I'm a fan, but the numbers don't lie. And that was true of AEW even years ago. When the numbers were better than they are now, they were always lower than the WWE content, which makes sense. I mean, the bigger company is going to cast a wider net when it comes to fans searching on YouTube for content, right? Even if the product sucks. Even if the product is fucking boring and uninspired. If anything, it does even better, because when people get upset or they don't like what they're watching, they seek out content to see if other people feel the same way that they do. And then they commiserate together. That does happen. Right? Jump on WFAN radio here in New York and listen to all the Mets fans calling in, okay? It's the same thing. They're going to bleed orange and blue until the day they die, but they're not going to be afraid to let you know how they feel when the team sucks. From what I do hear, though, their coverage of anything outside WWE was already fairly minimal. Tommy Dreamer's on the show. He worked for TNA for many years, as does Nick Nemeth right now, right? He's their champion. He also has a hosting gig on there. So they do cover TNA, and likely will continue to do so since TNA is playing nice with WWE. Dave LaGreca, after the announcement was made, he claimed that the content of the shows would not be changing, right? Nothing is changing. By Friday, Dave had people calling in and asking if they were still going to be covering AEW, and they avoided giving a straight answer to the question. They would be great dodgeball players, okay? But what else is he going to say, right? They're on a station now that is called WWE Radio. You don't have to be a Mensa member to figure out what that means. You know what it means. I know what it means. And I know Jonathan Coachman also had a show on the channel, and he was recently let go. Now Thunder Rosa says that she's not going to be back. The cleansing has begun. As one of the ESPN executives said of their partnership with WWE last year, they claimed that there was going to be a separation of church and state. Remember that? Until they got a C letter grade from an ESPN.com writer and flipped out over it. You had JBL saying that Andreas Hale, who was just let go by ESPN as part of a wave of layoffs last week, that Andreas Hale should have just given them an A grade, even if he didn't believe it was worthy of one, because now ESPN is in a business relationship with WWE. And so how are you going to have your business partner giving you a C grade? JBL has what I call WWE brain. And WWE brain dictates that nothing exists outside of WWE or the groups that they're friendly with, right? Nothing else exists. Why wouldn't that same logic apply here? It's a business relationship. And really, that's the issue. This is why it's more important than ever to have independent voices out there for you to listen to and watch and engage with. The less of that we have, the worse it is for fans. Which is not to say that there aren't people who work for SiriusXM who don't have their own platforms separate and apart from that. But in terms of that platform, that media, as has happened with ESPN and WWE, when you co-opt media in this way, and make no mistake, that is what WWE is doing here. They are co-opting media. Realistically, they co-opted Busted Open years ago. They only just now made it official. And this is great for WWE, but it's terrible for everyone else. You know, you look at it from WWE's perspective, SiriusXM is built into most cars at this point, right? If you're not subscribed to it, you probably have a free trial. You may not even know it. Millions of people tune in every day. Maybe not to Busted Open, but there's the Howard Stern Show. There's other live programs. People have different reasons for why they subscribe. Why wouldn't WWE want to tap into that, right? If you subscribe, you'll now be able to listen live to all the PLEs and other events, even if you're not interested in all the podcast stuff. That's pretty cool. That's probably the biggest perk out of all of this. And when they have events like SummerSlam, they can build a whole week of coverage around it on location, right? They could offer access to whatever talent the Busted Open folks want to bring on. So for WWE, this is a no-lose situation for them. Now, if you're Dave LaGreca and SiriusXM, because I don't know how much power and influence Dave even has over there at this point. There's so many more voices in the room as compared to how it was when he first started the show. And if SiriusXM wants to work with WWE, Dave LaGreca is not going to be in any position to stop that. Okay, let's just be honest. But if you're Dave, I can understand him taking an opportunity like this. You know, that WWE would buy in on this and that they saw the value in it is a testament to what he has built over there. And for Sirius, they started their own 24-hour channel last year, which is what WWE is now taking over. They're taking over the 24/7 pro wrestling channel they had. And from what I understand, there was a lot of repeat content on there. It didn't sound to me like they had a full schedule of original content. So I don't know how well it was even doing. Again, I can't speak to that. But it wouldn't surprise me that Sirius looked at that and said, you know what? WWE wants to come in and rebrand the entire thing. We're not going to say no to that. We need you. We need the content. And so one of the concessions that they had to make was likely getting rid of certain people that WWE did not want working on the channel and not giving airtime to other promotions that they don't approve of, right? They attached their name to it. WWE Radio is not coming on the air tomorrow on their first full day of operation and giving you a full recap of AEW Redemption tonight. Okay? Maybe it's a gradual thing. And, you know, at first there's some talk here and there to give the appearance of business as usual, but believe me, it is anything but business as usual. Now it's just business. They are now an arm of WWE. You know, you've heard of state-run media, right? That's what this is. Sirius is not going to rock the boat on this because they're now in business with WWE, just like ESPN is in business with WWE. And forget AEW and other promotions for a second. What does this mean for criticism of WWE? Like on a channel called WWE Radio, how much criticism are they willing to tolerate before it becomes an issue? They've already started promoting this on their television shows. They talked about the launch on SmackDown Friday night. You think WWE is going to want people watching the TV show to go, oh, wow, I can listen to WWE on the radio now, and analysis of the TV shows on the radio, just to tune in and hear Dave LaGreca frothing at the mouth in his bathrobe about how The Rock ruined WrestleMania? Are you fucking kidding me? If you have a PLE that wasn't very good and deserves to be torched, are they going to be afraid to call balls and strikes because they don't want to upset their bosses? The ones who sign their paychecks? If there's a serious news story related to WWE that maybe doesn't paint them in the best light, is that going to get any coverage at all on WWE Radio? I mean, were those stories getting coverage to begin with on Busted Open? Maybe not. But you're certainly not going to hear about it on there. Not now. As long as you understand what you're getting and what you're paying for. That's up to you if that's something that you're okay with. If that's something that interests you or if it doesn't interest you, it's going to be up to the individual. I don't get a chance to listen to very many wrestling podcasts these days. I mean, I talk about wrestling enough on my end that whatever free time I have, the last thing I want to do is listen to more pro wrestling. But what I think is important and what I would want to listen to are people without an agenda who are going to call it like they see it. If they think something is really good, they'll tell you it's good. If they think something absolutely sucks, they're not going to be shy about it, and they're not going to run away from telling you that either. But also hopefully explaining why. Why do you feel that way? Here's why I think this is bad. Here's what I think would have been better, or how they can make it better, or what I hope to see next time. But whatever they're saying, it's coming from a place of honesty. You may not like it, and you don't have to agree with it, but you can at least believe that it's the person's genuine, honest, unfiltered opinion. That's what I would want to listen to. That's how I try to conduct myself. And fuck whoever is not happy with that. It's the thing I love the most about what I do and doing it on my own, is that I never have to worry if someone above me is going to have an issue with something I'm saying, or I have to clear it with someone first. I don't even have to think about it. I just say it. If it's live, it's out there for the world to see. And if it's recorded like this podcast is, I finish recording, I slap on the intro, I slap on the outro, I convert it, I upload it, and I post it. And it's out there for the world to listen to. And I don't pay it another thought. Like even doing the Uncrowned Wrestling show for Ariel Helwani and for Yahoo, no one has ever told me, oh, you can't say that, or oh, you can't cover that, or oh, maybe stay away from that. They leave me alone and they let me do my thing. It's the whole reason they brought me onto the team in the first place. They didn't want me to change a single thing, and I love that. I love working with people like that. And look, who's to say that one day an opportunity may not come up to do something where I do have to answer to somebody else or avoid talking about certain things, right? I can't say that really appeals to me, but I also can't sit here and tell you that if there was an opportunity, worth pursuing, that I wouldn't do it. It would have to make sense for me and hopefully allow me to continue doing what I do here. It's why I can't begrudge LaGreca for doing this. I know he's getting some hate and he's getting a lot of "you sold out" comments. It's such a huge opportunity for him. I get it. I understand it. But like the recent AJ Styles comments about him wanting to see WWE acquire a wrestling promotion in Japan, like they did with AAA, these types of deals have real consequences. Maybe not right away, but they do, and they're not good consequences. If you're part of the Busted Open crew or you work for SiriusXM, this is a cause for celebration. For everyone else, I guess it all depends on what you're looking for out of your pro wrestling discussion. And for those of you who don't have SiriusXM or you didn't listen to Busted Open to begin with, then absolutely nothing changes for you. And you can continue to follow the same shows that you always followed. And if this is one of them, and I assume it is if you're listening to this, I appreciate the hell out of you for it.